Hey everyone, tonight I'm going to tell you a true crime story, gently, just for you. Picture yourself standing in front of a small, unassuming suburban house, the kind with peeling white paint and a squeaky porch swing that never quite stops moving. The air is still, yet somehow you feel like someone's watching you from behind those drawn curtains. It's not the house that frightens you, it's the memory of what was found inside, and more importantly, what was never explained. So before you settle in, please take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I'm doing here. And tell me where you're listening from tonight and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now turn off your lights, let the fan hum its soft lullaby, and let's begin tonight's journey together. You stand at the door. It looks normal enough. A brass handle dulled by years of gripping hands. A welcome mat so faded you can't read it anymore. But inside, decades ago, someone left behind a question that no detective has convincingly answered. The door was locked from the inside, and yet no one was there. You step closer. I know. Your curiosity itches like a mosquito bite you can't reach. I promise to scratch it gently. Let's rewind to a humid spring in 1963 in the sleepy town of Marquette, Michigan, a town best known, even today, for its university and the old iron mines rusting away under layers of pine needles. Here's your first truth. Northern Michigan is home to more ghost towns than most people imagine. Whole settlements swallowed by trees and forgotten railroads. Anyway, back then, this neighborhood was new. Young families moved in after the war, hoping to plant gardens and grow old together. On Sycamore Street, the Johnson family seemed as normal as apple pie. Mom, Dad's 2 kids, a golden retriever that barked at the mailman. You know the picture. But one rainy Sunday, neighbors noticed something odd. The mailbox overflowed for days. The Johnsons hadn't shown up for church, which in those days meant something. A nosy neighbor, I'd argue the world owes them a thank you, finally peeked through a window and nearly fainted. The Johnsons were gone, not a soul inside, but the back door was bolted shut. The front door locked from the inside. This detail would gnaw at the town for years. The official police line was that the family likely moved out in the night. Oh, sure, and left their Sunday roast still on the kitchen counter? Yeah, right. Some say the cops just didn't want to admit they had no clue. You tiptoe down the hall in your mind. Picture faded wallpaper with sunflowers that look more like gray smears in the dark. The living room still held all their furniture, armchairs, a sofa with coins lost in its cushions. A child's doll lay face down by the fireplace. No signs of struggle, no sign of forced entry. One thing always stood out. A single muddy footprint near the back door. Too big for the kids, too small for the father. A footprint that led nowhere. How's that for a bedtime detail? The newspapers ran it for a week. Front page, big headlines, even a tiny map showing where the house stood. Then it faded. People wanted to sleep at night. Small towns bury secrets fast, like burying bones in the backyard. Oh, here's your quirky tidbit tonight. One local legend claims the Johnson house was built over an older foundation. Some claim the basement had tunnels leading to abandoned mine shafts, perfect for a midnight escape or something else. Of course, local historians debate whether any of that's true. No official record of tunnels was ever found. But then again, old mines have a way of staying hidden, don't they? You pause by the locked door in your mind. What would you have done? Kicked it in, called the sheriff, or walked away and pretended you saw nothing? Before you decide, let me share this. In 1987, a college student doing a local history project tried to prove the tunnel theory. He found only crumbling stone walls and a single rusty ladder leading nowhere. He left town a month later. Some say he never spoke about it again. But that's just gossip. Like so much in true crime, rumor fills the cracks that fact leaves behind. By now, I hope your eyes feel heavier than your thoughts. But stay with me. This house hasn't given up all its whispers just yet. You take a breath right there on the creaky front porch of your mind and push the door open. The hinges complain, but the house doesn't mind. It hasn't minded anything for 60 years now. Inside, the air is stale. You taste it, like damp cardboard mixed with something sour, a smell old houses hoard in their lungs. You imagine your foot brushing against that lone doll, spinning her face up to meet yours. Her painted eyes know nothing, or maybe they know everything. Neighbors whispered about the Johnsons for years. Some swore they heard voices in the night, someone calling out for help, then silence. One rumor that keeps resurfacing is that the father, Robert Johnson, owed money to a Detroit bookie. A tidy theory if you like your mysteries to wrap up neat. But tell me, if you were running from debt collectors, wouldn't you at least take your coat, your wedding photos, your kids' toys? I'll slip in another fact, because I promised you real crumbs among the shadows. By the 1960s, Detroit's organized crime scene was a tangled mess of small-time enforcers, corrupted cops, and disappearing witnesses. So yes, it's plausible someone wanted Robert gone. But the locked door? That still stands in the way. Some young detective once bragged that the lock mechanism must have been faulty. Maybe it jammed when they left. His sergeant, older and wise in the ways of small-town secrets, told him quietly, or maybe you don't want to find out what really happened in that house. You drift down the hallway now, your fingertips brushing the faded paint. You find yourself in the kitchen, where the Sunday roast rotted on the counter, where someone left plates and forks as if dinner would resume any second. There's a fly buzzing somewhere, even in your imagination. It's annoying. Don't swat it. Let it live. It's probably the house's last loyal witness. A peculiar side note for you. Over the decades, new owners tried to fix up the Johnson house. It changed hands 3 times. Every time, buyers stayed a few months, then left abruptly. Realtors call it a cozy fixer-upper with character. Locals call it cursed. One old lady, I wish I could introduce you to her, swears she heard a child crying inside when she passed by in the 90s. She never went near again. That's her story. Historians shrug and say grief does strange things to memory. You lean against the chipped kitchen counter. If you listen closely, you might hear the echo of rain hitting the roof that Sunday in '63. Or maybe it's your own heartbeat thumping in time with mine. Let's get academic for a heartbeat. There's an ongoing debate among local history buffs whether the Johnsons staged their own disappearance. No bodies, no stolen goods, no note, just the locked door. Some argue it's the perfect vanishing act, the suburban version of pulling a Houdini. Others think the answer is underground, Literally, thanks to those rumored tunnels I teased you with earlier. The town library even has a single, torn blueprint of the block from 1911. It shows something odd beneath the Johnson lot. Or maybe it's just bad ink on old paper. I know, this is the part where you wonder if you'd be brave enough to spend a night here. You, curled up in a sleeping bag right on this kitchen floor, the darkness pressing close, the locked door rattling when there's no wind. Sleep well, right? Let's lighten it up. Here's your soft chuckle for this stretch. If ghosts are real, they probably gossip about us more than we gossip about them. Look at this one, they whisper, thinking they can solve a mystery in their pajamas. But keep going. There's more to see, more to hear. In the next room, behind that locked door, something waits. Not a monster, not a ghost with chains, just a stubborn piece of truth that never signed the lease to live here. Rest your eyes for a moment, but don't drift too far. I'm not done whispering. You step carefully now, pushing deeper into the house of echoes you've built in your head. Each creak underfoot sounds like a warning or a welcome, depends on how you see it. Past the kitchen is the narrow hallway that leads to the bedrooms. On the wall, a family photo still hangs crooked. You lean closer, squinting at the black and white smiles frozen forever. Robert Johnson looks stiff in his Sunday suit, his wife, Linda, softer at the edges. Her eyes hint at a story she never told. And the kids, 2 of them, barely school age, caught mid-wiggle by the camera. Here's a slice of official truth to anchor you. The photo was used in newspapers across Michigan. For a week in '63, those 4 faces sat next to headlines that screamed family vanishes, door locked from inside. Libraries still keep yellowed clippings in drawers no one opens anymore. You try the first bedroom door. It groans open. Inside, twin beds, one unmade, toys scattered underfoot. You imagine stepping on a tiny plastic car. Ouch, don't worry. I'll spare you that for tonight. A child's room untouched for decades can feel heavier than any tomb. One odd thing, investigators at the time noted the kids' shoes lined up neatly by the window. 4 little shoes, and a window that wouldn't budge, painted shut years before. So how did they leave? If they left? You sit on the bed. Well, you imagine you do. The mattress sags under your weight. The springs squeal softly. Outside this room, life went on. In here, time gave up. Some crime buffs argue the Johnsons never left the house. Not really. But dig all you want. No bones ever turned up under the floorboards. Just old pennies and a broken toy train. While we hover here, a quirky aside for you. Did you know the phrase skeletons in the closet comes partly from 19th century England when it was literal? Families sometimes hid bodies in walls to avoid scandal. True crime historians still debate how common it was. So when you hear someone say family secrets, remember that phrase once dripped with more than just gossip. Your mind drifts to the master bedroom down the hall. That door, the one that locks from the inside. You know we're heading there, but not yet. Patience is delicious, isn't it? A local historian named Edith Barrow, sweet lady, sharp as a tack even at 90, once claimed she saw Linda Johnson's ghost in the upstairs window in 1972. Swears Linda was brushing her hair, humming a lullaby. No one else heard it. Edith stuck to her story till her last breath. Did she make it up? Was it grief for neighbors she missed? Or did she glimpse something the rest of us ignore? Scholars shrug, skeptics roll their eyes. But the window still catches the moonlight in a way that makes people cross the street rather than pass too close. I promised you a chuckle each 1,000 words or so, so here's this. If I ever vanish, please don't let the newspapers use my worst photo and hide my search history too. That's scarier than any locked door, right? You rise from the small bed. The hallway stretches before you, like a throat swallowing you deeper. At the far end, that master bedroom waits. The door everyone talks about, but few dare to open again. You're brave, though, or stubborn. Same thing at this hour of the night. Take a breath, hold it. One more fact for the road. According to property records, the Johnson lot sits on land once owned by a fur trader in the early 1800s, a man rumored to have died violently, buried standing up so he could guard his stolen fortune. Historians bicker over whether he existed at all. But stories love soil like this, old, dark, and hungry. Your hand hovers over the doorknob. It's cold, even in this pretend midnight you and I share. Brass worn smooth by decades of curious fingers, police gloves, maybe even Robert Johnson's hand the night before he vanished. You turn it. Slowly, the latch clicks, like a secret confessing itself too late. Inside, the master bedroom is neat. Too neat, maybe. A bed made military tight, floral curtains drawn just so, a reading lamp waiting to be switched on, though the bulb's long dead. You stand at the threshold, breathing in the stale perfume of a life that once filled this room. Police notes say the bed was untouched, no sign of struggle. Linda's hairbrush still lay on her nightstand, strands of dark hair tangled in its bristles. Her wedding band, however, gone. Small detail, big question. She never took it off in public. Why then? Look to the far corner. A wardrobe stands ajar. You imagine stepping closer, tugging it wide. Empty hangers swing slightly, as if they remember weight they once carried. Some say the wardrobe is a portal to all the answers. A silly idea, but try telling that to your pulse right now. A known fact to anchor you again. In the 1960s, many Midwest homes used simple twist locks on bedroom doors. Cheap, practical, easy to jam. Forensics back then wasn't what you see on TV today. No DNA, no luminol glow, just fingerprints and the gut instinct of local sheriffs who'd rather not stir ghosts awake. So when the lock was found engaged from the inside, folks shrugged, called it a fluke. Or maybe they hoped it was. Another local tidbit. Teenagers dared each other for years to sleep in this bedroom. A handful did. Some swore they heard scratching from under the bed. One boy swears he woke up locked inside, though his prankster buddies insist they did it while he snored. Who do you believe, sleepy teen or giggling daredevils? Scholars say folklore thrives best in forgotten places. You kneel now, peeking under the bed. Dust bunnies, a dropped button, a single yellow marble. No monsters, no hidden door to a tunnel. Just silence thick enough to spread on toast. Here's your soft chuckle before we leave this room. If you ever find yourself ghost hunting in an abandoned house, don't check under the bed. Not because something's there, because your knees will crack so loudly you'll scare yourself more than any phantom ever could. As you stand, you run your hand along the door again. The lock glints, ordinary yet defiant. In all these decades, no one's offered a satisfying theory that checks every box. A sloppy lock, A staged scene? A clue no one's clever enough to spot? Some say the real answer was lost the moment the last detective shut the file, shuffled it into a box, and let it gather dust in the basement of the county records building, where it sits still next to forgotten marriage licenses and old maps that smell of mildew and missed chances. Your eyes flutter, heavy now, but you're not done yet. We have miles to drift through in this gentle night. The Johnsons' locked door is just the first puzzle. You step out of that suffocating bedroom and back into the hallway, carrying more questions than answers, just like every detective, reporter, and midnight wanderer who stood here before you in imagination or in flesh. The air tastes colder now, as if the house knows you're not leaving yet. You pause by the crooked family photo again, your fingertips ghosting over the glass. 4 smiles frozen, 4 stories untold. Let's pull back from the creaking floorboards and see how this mystery tangled itself into local folklore and beyond, because you're not the only one who can't stop picking at it like a loose thread on a sweater. A fact to anchor us. In 1964, less than a year after the Johnson family disappeared, a local journalist named Carl Haskins published a 3-part expose in the Marquette Daily Miner. He called it the Locked Door Mystery. His angle was simple. Maybe someone didn't want the family found, or maybe they didn't want the truth found. Carl's articles were half fact, half conjecture, sprinkled with neighbor gossip. He interviewed the pastor, the mailman, even the milkman. Yes, they still had one then. Each remembered something trivial that, strung together, made the town squirm. Linda had been seen crying outside the church one Wednesday. Robert was spotted at a bar in Ishpeming, pockets empty but buying rounds. And the kids, well, no one really noticed them. Not until they were gone. Carl's reporting won him an award. It also earned him threats. Anonymous letters slipped under his office door, one typed neatly, "Drop the Johnsons, or you'll join them." Did he listen? Of course not. Journalists are stubborn creatures. But 3 months later, Carl left town without a word, abandoning a half-written manuscript titled Behind the Locked Door. It's never been found. Now, a peculiar footnote for you. Marquette's Historical Society still gets requests for Carl's notes, but the only box left behind contains mundane scraps, old receipts, grocery lists, a postcard from Florida. Historians argue whether the missing manuscript ever existed. Some whisper that it's hidden inside the Johnson house itself. So next time you poke around abandoned bedrooms, check the attic. Or don't. I like having you here with both arms intact. As you wander back down the hallway, imagine how this house must have looked before the whispers. Bright curtains, Saturday cartoons humming from a tube TV, the smell of bacon on a Sunday morning. All that sweetness evaporated in a single locked click. Let's sprinkle in a modern thought. Some armchair detectives online think the locked door mystery is a metaphor. Stay with me about American suburban life. The illusion that a neat lawn and a white fence keep out the darkness. Philosophical, sure, but when your front door is locked from the inside and no one's there, it's hard not to wonder about what's really hiding behind the everyday smiles. You reach the back door now, the one with the single muddy footprint. It's faded almost entirely, but old photos show it clearly. A right boot print, size 9. Robert wore size 11. Linda, size 6. The kids? Too small? So whose footprint was it? Police shrugged. Maybe a curious neighbor stepped in after the fact. Maybe an officer tramped through, but no one admitted it, and no one found any matching boot prints outside. Just the one. It's like the house inhaled an intruder and never exhaled them again. Here's your gentle chuckle to keep your eyelids heavy but your mind drifting. If I ever commit a crime, remind me to wear 2 different shoes just to confuse future sleuths. Imagine a detective's face when they find a high heel and a flip-flop at the scene. As you stand by that back door, the storm outside rattles the windows of your imagination. Somewhere out there, maybe under the pine needles and iron dust, the Johnsons sleep soundlessly. Or maybe they're watching you now, grateful that someone still whispers their story in the dark. Stay with me. There's so much more to unpack. Suspects, conspiracies, and the ghost of a manuscript that might yet breathe clues. You stand at the back door a little longer, fingertips grazing the old brass deadbolt that once stubbornly kept the world out, or kept secrets in. It doesn't squeak anymore. It just stares back, mute, defiant. You turn away. Let's follow the trail Carl Haskins started and never finished. Because if we don't, well, who will? Fact first, to ground you. In 1965, a new detective named William Bill Rourke picked up the Johnson file. Young, cocky, and fresh from Chicago, Bill didn't believe in ghosts or small-town hush-hush. He believed in bad people doing bad things and in asking questions until someone cracked. Bill's first big move? Re-interview everyone who'd known Robert Johnson. Co-workers at the paper mill remembered him as a stand-up guy, except for one shift foreman who muttered, he had secrets. Men like that always do. No one pressed for details. Back then, loyalty meant silence. Bill's second move? He tracked down Linda's sister, a nurse living 2 towns over. She refused to talk at first, but over cheap coffee at a diner off Highway 41, she confessed Linda had come to her crying a month before she vanished. No fight, no bruises, just fear. She told her sister, I think Robert's planning something. If anything happens, check the closet. Simple words, haunting words. Yet when police checked the closet, well, you've already peeked inside. Empty except for swinging hangers and dust thick enough to write your name in. Now for the odd detail, Linda's sister died in 1969 in what the coroner called an unfortunate fall down basement stairs. No foul play suspected, but rumor says she'd been organizing Linda's old letters that very day. The letters never surfaced. Coincidence? Maybe. But stories like this rarely thrive on coincidence alone. You step away from the back door and wander into the dining room. The table sits ghost-ready, 4 placemats, a chipped gravy boat, and a half-burnt candle. It's a museum now, one you visit with your breath held. A scholarly nugget for the thinkers. A 1993 criminology paper used the Johnson case as a textbook example of community-fueled myth. The author argued that the more unexplained a crime is, the more a town will stuff it with fear, fable, and fantasy, until the truth is smothered by more interesting lies. A fair point, but ask yourself, does that explain the locked door? In the 70s, Detective Rourke tried one last angle, money. He pulled every bank record he could find, chasing breadcrumbs of secret accounts or offshore stashes. Nothing. Not a dime out of place. Robert Johnson was as boring on paper as his tax returns. Here's where the trail goes sideways. Rourke found one weird payment. 3 weeks before they disappeared, Robert withdrew $500, equal to nearly $5,000 today. Not a fortune, but enough to run for a while. But no one knows if he spent it, stashed it, or gave it to someone else. The money evaporated along with the family. Let's slip in a laugh to keep the shivers gentle. If I ever disappear, remind me not to leave a paper trail at all. Nothing confuses the police like good old-fashioned cash and a passport they can't find. You press your ear to the dining room wall now. Humor me. Imagine hearing a faint tapping. In the 80s, a group of amateur ghost hunters spent a night here, armed with camcorders the size of microwaves and recorders that hissed more than they captured. They claimed to hear knocking from within the walls, 3 slow raps, over and over. Of course, the house's foundation settles, pipes gurgle, wind rattles loose siding. But 3 knocks, always 3? Academic nerds debate to this day if it was just the plumbing or a trick of suggestion. But among paranormal believers, the Johnson house ranks on countless top 10 most haunted lists, sandwiched between abandoned hospitals and crumbling asylums. You stand alone in the dining room. Rain drums on the roof again, just like it did that Sunday in '63. Some nights, when storms roll through Marquette, old-timers swear they see figures moving behind these windows. But they pull their curtains tight and tell themselves they imagined it. It's easier that way. Your feet ache from standing, but your mind? Oh, your mind wants more. Good, because the trail twists deeper still into suspects no one dared name out loud and theories that slip through your fingers like fog. You drift from the dining room to the narrow stairway leading down to the basement, a place everyone agrees is the least friendly corner of this puzzle box called the Johnson house. Your foot touches the first step, and the wood sighs under your weight. You imagine the smell now, damp cement, mildew curling into your nose, the earthy tang of a place that's never truly dry. Basements remember everything, every argument, every secret, every box shoved out of sight when polite company comes over. Fact to steady you. Detective Bill Rourke, our relentless bloodhound, once joked that if the Johnsons left a clue, it would be in the basement. In 1972, he and 2 officers spent 12 hours down there, chipping at the floor near an old coal chute. They found only dirt, broken glass, and an angry raccoon. No tunnels, no shallow graves. But the rumor of hidden passageways burrowed deeper into town gossip with each failed dig. You reach the concrete floor now. A single bulb dangles overhead, swinging slightly, shadows dancing across walls lined with rotting shelves and mason jars whose labels have long turned to stains. Imagine that faint buzz of the filament, steady, patient, like the heartbeat of this stubborn house. Here's a side note for the brave. A 2001 urban exploration group tried to map out any tunnels connecting this house to old mine shafts under Marquette. They traced an old drainage line, crawled halfway to a crumbling service tunnel, and turned back when bats swooped at their heads. Their online forum still argues if the Johnsons used the mines to vanish, or if it's just romantic nonsense spun by bored night owls. Scholars point out that most mine shafts collapsed by the 1940s. But most isn't all, is it? You crouch to run your fingers along the base of the far wall, rough cement, brittle in spots, cold enough to pinch your bones. Somewhere behind it, maybe an answer rots in silence. Or maybe it's just more stone. Don't forget that muddy footprint upstairs. It keeps tapping at your mind like a persistent moth. No trail leading in, no trail leading out. Just one perfect boot print near the back door and a locked front door daring anyone to explain it. Rourke's notes hint he had a theory, an unspoken suspect he never named. After he retired in '85, he told a young reporter at a bar that he'd cracked the case, but would take the name to his grave. True to his word, he did. He died in 1992, cremated, with a grin that probably still annoys half the force. A sip of gentle humor to keep your eyelids drooping. If there's a detective heaven, Rourke's probably leaning against a cloud, tapping his whiskey glass and laughing at all of us still poking around his cold case. Back upstairs, new owners still find signs of his obsession. Pencil marks on door frames, tiny drill holes along baseboards. He checked every inch. The house gave him nothing, or it gave him everything, and he just refused to share. Another morsel for the thinkers. Criminology students sometimes debate whether the locked door was a red herring. Maybe the real story had nothing to do with locks or footprints, but with people who knew how to vanish when life cornered them. Witness protection, an unpaid debt to the wrong people, a staged family suicide without bodies, all floated, none proven. You stand now at the bottom of the stairs, hearing your own heartbeat, louder than the drip of a leaky pipe. You've traced the facts, sniffed out the rumors. Now you're ready to follow the darkest threads, to the whispers about who might have helped the Johnsons disappear, or ensured they never would speak again. You climb the basement stairs slowly, the old wood groaning behind you like a reluctant confession. Back in the hallway, you pause, hand resting on the banister worn smooth by decades of uneasy hands. Let's follow the final crooked trails Detective Rourke hinted at, but never pinned down. Because every locked door mystery needs its rogues gallery, those faces in the dark who might have turned the key, literally or figuratively. First suspect, Henry Hank Stoll. If Marquette had a boogeyman in the 60s, Hank wore the mask well. He owned the tavern where Robert was last seen spending that mysterious $500. Hank had connections, small-time mob runners drifting up from Detroit to launder cash through quiet northern bars. Rourke's notes hint Robert might have agreed to hold something for Hank. No one knows what. Cash? Paperwork? A secret? A fact to ground your imagination. Hank Stoll died in a car crash in '71. Drunk, no seatbelt, straight into an iron bridge railing. Some swear he ranted about the family behind the door the night before, barroom talk or deathbed confession. Who's to say? Next suspect, Pastor Elijah Brown. Yes, a pastor. Small-town churches hold more secrets than any saloon. Linda was seen crying on his front steps more than once. Some neighbors whispered that the pastor counseled her a bit too closely. Rourke sniffed around but found no scandal, just gossip and a man quick to quote scripture when cornered. When asked about Linda's tears, Pastor Brown said, "Some burdens are between a soul and the Lord." How convenient, huh? Here's a peculiar twist. Decades later, a parish ledger turned up in the church attic during renovations. One page was torn clean out, the page for March 1963. Some say it was nothing more than an accounting fluke. Others mutter that Linda made a donation, a large one, possibly hush money or penance, for a secret she never voiced. No receipts, no proof, only a missing page, and too much time passed to question it properly. And finally, the town's oldest suspect, the house itself. I know, it sounds like a cheap horror flick. But listen, a few fringe theorists claim the Johnsons never left because the house wouldn't let them. Superstitious nonsense? Maybe. But every owner since has left within a year, reporting the same weird dreams, footsteps in empty rooms, and locked doors that refuse to budge until dawn. A nugget for the thinkers. In 2011, a folklore scholar presented a paper arguing that the Johnson case is a modern American iteration of the classic haunted room mythos, a story archetype older than Puritan settlements. Essentially, every culture has a version, a space that traps a secret so tight it eats the people inside. You lean against the wall now, feeling the house breathe around you, or maybe that's just the wind sneaking through a cracked window. Either way, your spine hums with questions that have no polite answers. Let's break the tension for a heartbeat. If this house really is alive, I hope it's flattered we keep coming back to poke its wounds. We humans are nothing if not rude house guests, right? So here's where we stand. Robert, the maybe debtor. Linda, the maybe confessor. Hank, the maybe enforcer. Pastor Brown, the maybe sinner. And one stubborn locked door that turned a missing family into a local bedtime story for grown-ups. Outside, you hear rain again, tapping like cautious fingers on the window pane. The past is still locked in here, somewhere behind peeling wallpaper and secrets no bulldozer dares disturb. Now hold my hand for a moment, figuratively, of course. We're about to step into Act 3. The house will say its final piece, and you'll decide what version you'll carry back to your pillow tonight. You stand at the center of the Johnson house one last time, the storm outside whispering against the windows like it's gossiping with the walls. You feel the weight of every theory, every whisper, every footprint pressed into the floorboards under your feet. They say every house tells a story, but this one holds its breath and waits for you to fill in the missing lines. So let's lean closer to the final scraps of truth and see what might have been and what might always stay locked behind that door. You move toward the living room, where the fireplace still yawns black and cold. Once, the family would have gathered here, kids fighting over radio shows, Robert dozing off in his chair, Linda pretending not to notice when he snored. Now the only warmth is your own breath as you exhale, fogging up memories that never belonged to you. A fact to cling to. In 1989, a team of cold case volunteers, retired detectives, local history buffs, even a true crime author hoping to write the next bestseller, begged the county to reopen the Johnson file. They were politely told to mind their knitting. One sheriff's deputy off the record said, "Why dig up a ghost when the ghost never hurt nobody?" Maybe it's true, or maybe it was easier than admitting nobody had the nerve to face what might crawl out of the past. A final peculiar detail. In 1997, an anonymous letter arrived at the Marquette Daily Miner. Just one line, typed, "The door was locked because they never left." No name, no return address. The editor thought it was a prank and tossed it out. No copy exists, except in the head of the intern who opened it, who still swears it was real. You step closer to the fireplace and notice the rug, thin, threadbare, but a corner flipped up just enough to show a square of newer floorboards. Did Rourke check there? Did Carl Haskins write about it in his lost manuscript? Or is it just a floor patch from when the furnace was updated in '78? Rumor loves empty spaces. So does sleep. And you, standing here in your mind's gentle twilight, deserve both. But before we loosen our grip, here's your soft chuckle to keep your heart from pounding. If I vanish tomorrow, promise you'll lock my door from the inside too, just to keep the neighbors guessing. A last scholarly nibble for you to chew on while drifting. In 2014, a graduate student from Northern Michigan University presented a paper at a regional criminology conference titled Locked from the Inside, the Johnson House as a Case Study in Community Myth-Making. Her thesis? It doesn't matter what happened. What matters is that people need the story more than the truth. And maybe that's why the house still stands. Half museum, half cautionary tale, all nightmare for anyone too curious. You kneel by the fireplace, fingertips brushing the warm spot where embers once glowed. Maybe Robert's voice still echoes here. Maybe Linda's last sigh clings to the ashes. Or maybe it's just a house, too old to care and too stubborn to forget. Outside, the storm calms, leaving a hush so deep you hear your own thoughts clearer than ever. The door remains locked in your mind, the key forever missing, or maybe dangling right in front of your tired eyes. You settle deeper into the living room, the shadows now gentle, folding themselves around your shoulders like a soft blanket. The thunder's gone, replaced by the steady drip of leftover rain from the eaves outside. It's almost peaceful if you ignore the locked door pulsing at the edge of your thoughts. Let's wander back in time, softly, to the final days before the Johnsons became whispers. Some say Robert was seen late at night in the backyard, standing by the old oak tree, staring at nothing. The neighbor's dog barked at him for an hour. Others claim Linda packed boxes days before she disappeared, but no moving truck was ever seen. And the children? The children were last seen laughing in the yard, tossing a rubber ball that rolled into the street and vanished under a passing delivery truck. The ball was never found. A fact to anchor you one last time. The official case file, still boxed up in the county's deepest storage, lists the cause of disappearance as so unknown circumstances, presumed voluntary departure. Bureaucratic poetry, don't you think? A neat label for an untidy wound. In 2006, an aging local historian, Mabel Hutchinson, bless her stubborn heart, wrote a letter to the Miner's editor, insisting she'd uncovered proof the Johnsons staged it all. She died before she could share it, leaving only a note tucked inside her Bible. Ask about the root cellar. There was no root cellar. Or maybe it caved in long ago, taking its secrets with it. You stretch out on the ghost of their couch now, your mind slipping between then and now. If you listen carefully, you can almost hear Linda humming to hush the kids to sleep. Or maybe it's the wind through cracked shingles. One more peculiar crumb. Local teenagers still dare each other to spend Halloween night here. Most last an hour, maybe two. They sneak beers, tell ghost stories, giggle at creaks. But every one of them tells the same tale the next day. A door slamming upstairs when no one's there. Locked, then unlocked, then locked again. A soft chuckle because I promised. If this house ever sells for a decent price, you and I should buy it. We'll charge admission for thrill seekers, host midnight tours, and laugh all the way to the bank, assuming the door lets us back out, of course. You sit up, gazing at the front door. It still dares you to explain it. How a family vanishes without a trace, leaving a roast on the counter, toys under the bed, and a single muddy footprint. Scholars still debate it. Drunk kids still swear by it. And you, well, you'll carry it to bed tonight, a tiny locked room in the back of your mind, rattling softly when your dreams drift too close to the dark. Outside, the last raindrops tickle the gutters. Inside, the Johnsons remain exactly where they've always been, halfway between truth and legend, lost behind a door no key can open. You rest your head against the imaginary armrest, eyelids fluttering as the final threads of this house wrap gently around your thoughts. There's no thunder now, just the hush of your own breathing mingling with the faint creak of a home too old to forget. In the final stretch of the Johnson's tale, or the stretch we dare to speak aloud, there's a moment that slips through most versions. One winter, a real estate agent tried to sell the property again. This was 1983. He held an open house. Only 2 people came by, an elderly couple who peeked in the living room and left without a word, and a man in a brown coat who asked, "Is the lock still original?" When the agent said yes, the man smiled and left too. His name, no one knows. No paperwork, so no follow-up. Just a comment filed away in the agent's mind until he too retired and muttered about it to a local journalist over beers. Little details like that keep the door rattling in our imaginations, don't they? Here's a fact to slip in your pocket as you drift. The house still stands, though most want it gone. Demolition permits have been denied half a dozen times. Some blame budget cuts. Others whisper the ground itself resists the bulldozer's blade. Silly? Maybe. But not every mystery needs a ghost to feel haunted. A final scholarly wrinkle for your sleepy brain. Folklore experts argue that the Johnsons have become a town guardian myth. The locked door is a stand-in for secrets everyone has but won't admit. It's comforting in a crooked way, proof that even perfect families can break, vanish, and leave behind only furniture and worry. And yet, life goes on. You stand now, figuratively, of course, by that stubborn front door. Run your finger along the frame one last time. Imagine hearing the faintest click from the lock just as you turn to leave. Was that you? The wind? Or the house sighing goodnight? Your soft laugh before we close. If I ever come back here with you, remind me to bring extra batteries and a snack. No ghost hunt is fun on an empty stomach. Ask any rookie paranormal team. Outside, the rain has stopped. The porch swing sways once, twice, then rests. Inside, the silence reclaims every corner, folding the Johnsons back into a story only the brave, the bored, or the sleepy dare visit. And you, brave you, have tiptoed through every rumor, every creak, every missing clue tonight. What you do with it is up to you. Lock it away, tell a friend, or just let it drift into the quiet corners of your next dream. Don't speak yet. Rest here with me. When you're ready, I'll cradle this hush for you with a final whisper, a soft landing before you float off to sleep. You linger at the front door of your imagination, fingertips grazing that ancient brass knob one final time. Outside, The wind carries the last sighs of rain into the pine trees, whispering your name like a lullaby only the night understands. In here, the rooms exhale their secrets softly, almost grateful that someone stayed long enough to listen without demanding answers. You've walked their hallways, peered under beds, crouched beside fireplaces, and let the muddy footprint follow you from dream to waking thought. One last fact, just to keep your curious mind fed. To this day, no one has found a death certificate for any Johnson family member. No travel record, no confirmed sighting abroad, not a single trace in tax files or distant census books. It's as if they pressed their palms against the inside of that locked door and melted into the woodwork, leaving behind only silence and a roast that never got eaten. A final peculiar whisper. Some late-night radio hosts still take calls from Marquette locals who swear they see the kids playing in the yard on moonless nights. Tiny shapes in old-timey clothes, giggling by the hedges before vanishing behind the garage. The logical ones blame stray cats, low light, or whiskey. But you and I know some stories never close the door entirely. You take one last walk through the living room. The wallpaper peels. The air tastes like memory. You smile because you've become part of the legend now. Another voice to retell it when someone dares to ask, "Hey, did you ever hear about the house with the door locked from the inside?" A gentle laugh, as promised, to float you toward sleep. If we leave tonight and the door swings open behind us, let's pretend we didn't hear it. Some mysteries beg to be left alone, just like the final cookie in the jar, better untouched so you can believe in it longer. You open the front door now. The porch greets you with a sigh of damp wood and the soft hush of your own heartbeat slowing to match the night. Step out gently, quietly. The house watches you go, but says nothing. Its story is safe in your mind now, wrapped up with your blanket, tucked under your pillow. So rest easy, dreamer. Maybe someday we'll know the truth. But for now, sleep well. Stay here with me a little longer, just breathing slowly, feeling the hush of this room wrap around your shoulders like the softest blanket you've ever known. Let each breath drift out of your chest, carrying the shadows of locked doors and whispered rumors far away from your pillow. Imagine your muscles letting go, one by one, like the click of an old latch finally opening after years of silence. Your forehead smooths, your jaw softens, your shoulders sink deeper into the mattress beneath you. You did well tonight, wandering bravely through a house that doesn't want to be solved, gathering secrets without demanding more than they wish to give. Listen to the quiet hum of the world outside your window. Maybe it's the gentle purr of your fan. Maybe it's the slow heartbeat of a sleepy street settling down for the night. Let it blend with the story now sleeping behind your eyelids. No ghosts tonight. No locked doors waiting for you. Just a soft meadow in your mind where the air smells like warm grass and forgotten worries. Feel your feet relax, your fingers uncoil, your breath steady and slow. There's nothing else to do tonight. No questions to chase, no mysteries to hold tight. The Johnson house is far behind you, its porch swing still rocking gently in the dark. Here, in your bed, there is only calm, only rest, only the promise of a night that belongs wholly to your dreams. Drift now, let go. I'll watch the door for you until the sun comes up. Sleep softly, Sleep deeply, sleep well.